All right, I am fresh off of an Eidetics experience, and what the heck is Eidetics? Oh my gosh, well, I didn't know up until a couple of weeks ago, and I hadn't experienced it up until a couple of moments ago. But Eidetics is, actually, I don't even want to tell you what Eidetics is. I'll let our guests on the podcast tell you what Eidetics is. But first, let's introduce who I am, because maybe you don't even know who I am. Welcome to the Alter Your Health podcast, your source of information and inspiration to promote the holistic transformation of your health and the health of our planet. And me, I'm Dr. Benjamin Alter. I am the host of this podcast. And if it's your first time seeing me, hi, and you can subscribe, rate, review, leave a comment, like the video, like the episode on iTunes, YouTube, wherever you're tuning in from. Really appreciate that feedback and support. Also have a new Patreon account, patreon.com/alterhealth, and that allows us to receive support financially. The intention is to receive enough support to have some professional support when it comes to production of this podcast, these videos, and that sort of thing. So thank you. And let's get into this episode. Well, like I said, it's all about Eidetics. It's all about the experience of Eidetics. If you are driving or busy or doing something else, you can certainly still listen to it and probably get a lot out of this. But if you want to listen to this one in a peaceful place where you can just kind of drop in, maybe close your eyes and go through the process with us, that would probably be really great as well, because chances are you will find something inside of yourself that has been there for a really long time, wanting to be expressed. I think that's what I found. I knew it was there. I've felt it before. I've tapped into it. I've touched it. I've seen it. And now I see it with, more light on it. And I have the ability to connect with that expansive source essence of who I am. It's all the same. We all desire that same connection to our authentic self, and we can't really put words on it, but we can put a feeling on it, and we have to trust that feeling. So I want to introduce our guest on the Alter Your Health podcast. Her name is Wendy Yellen. She is named one of the international top three She is named one of the international top 3 transformational experts in her field. She supports people of heart and integrity around the world to live a full, passionate, successful, and unshackled life of love, awareness, and compassion without it costing them their soul. I love that, Wendy. She had a 100% referral-based, waiting list only private practice in psychotherapy in Texas. And she talks about how she closed her practice because she wasn't really aligned with the results that she was, the limited results that she was witnessing in her clients. So she dove into Eidetic imagery. Years later, she was reintroduced to Dr. Actor Ashton. I don't think I pronounced his name right, but she knew she had found the holy grail of transformational work and jumped back into working with people and their transformation. So she left psychotherapy into this Eidetic imagery process, and since then she has introduced thousands of men and women all around the world to evidence-based treatments of Eidetics. The practice is actually based on ancient Greek knowledge and 21st century science, and it uses the power of Eidetic images to enable business people and creatives to unlock their full potential and remove the weight of old, often unseen vulnerabilities which have been holding them back. And like I said, that's kind of what I experienced to some degree. Maybe I even look different because apparently Eidetics will make you look differently. Maybe we have to do a warning. You might look differently after listening to this podcast. Well, anyways, I'm going to stop blabbering and we'll dive into this beautiful conversation and lovely experience with our guest, Wendy Yellen. And if you want to learn more about Wendy and her process and her practice, you can find links to that at www.alter.health. And that's where you'll find all the podcast show notes, and also at wendyyellen.com, WendyYellen.com. and she's got this beautiful spiritual manifesto download that I highly recommend. And now we can dive in to this episode with Wendy Yellen. Wendy, I'm really happy that you've decided to join us on the Alter Your Health podcast, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Benjamin. I'm honored and super actually looking forward to it. I've enjoyed your podcast. I've listened to a few and I've really enjoyed them. So
thank you so much. I've listened to just a couple pieces of your work as well, and I'm absolutely fascinated. I've kind of spent my life thus far in all sorts of spiritual inquiry, and when it comes to health and healing especially, and it seems like we're very much aligned in our intentions and our life missions, and it seems like you've discovered some pearls that I'm really excited to learn more about. So would you like to just share with me and the audience how you've come into the field of work that you're in now?
Sure, absolutely. Let me go back just a little bit, like way back, and then come forward fairly quickly. So when I was in, what was then 7th or 8th grade, so middle schoolish, my mom was still, this is back a while ago, so my mom was still picking out my clothes. And I remember, and I grew up in Buffalo area, so it was really cold, lots of snow. And I was wearing my mother had quote unquote dressed me in a dress that was, the collar was too high, the hem was too long, it was itchy, and I felt like an old lady, and I just hated it. And I felt like I wanted to burst out of my skin, but I didn't know what to do with those feelings. There was just something so off. So after school was finished, I went out with my boots, which of course totally completed the outfit. And I started stomping in the snow. I am not couth. I am not couth. And I was really angry. And I didn't even know actually if there was a word couth. I knew there was a word uncouth, but it was expressing how I felt. Not fitting in my skin, not knowing what to do about it, and not wanting to do what everybody else was doing either. So flash forward to many, many years later when I became a clinical social worker, master's of social work, and I had a private practice, a full private practice, no marketing, no advertising, 100% referral and a waiting list, which I had no idea how good that was at the time. It just fell in my lap. I mean, obviously my clients were happy. They were referring their friends to me, but I felt like if this is all there is to change, and I had many, 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 many modalities that I was using, emotional body release, psychoanalytic psychotherapy, and everything in between. I thought, if this is all there is, if this is the full extent to which people can change, I'm not willing to do it anymore. So like the dress, I just decided no, and I stopped. And everybody around me, even the woman that cut my hair, she said, I can't believe you're not doing therapy, Wendy. It's in your bones. It's in your cells. How can you stop? And I said, it's soul sucking to do something that doesn't go to the extent that I wanted to go in. And then many years later, I rediscovered the work that we're going to experience today, Eidetics. Now, when I first heard about it, it made no sense to me. All the people around me were like oohing and eyeing, and I thought they were nuts. I didn't get it. My head was going so fast, and I was talking to myself so much, and I was being so judgmental that nothing that was happening would sink in. Nothing. So 20 years later, when I rediscovered Eidetics, and I went to a training with the father of Eidetic imagery, Dr. Asen, I got it. I had done enough work at that point that I could lower my intellectual barriers enough to feel what was happening to me. And I thought, oh my goodness, this explains so much. All the personal work I'd done hadn't taken me to these places. So I dove in, and went through the 3-year training. Many years later, here we are.
Wow, I can, really appreciate it because for one thing, as we were talking about before we started recording, that intellect, which is really a guiding force in so many of our lives. And you talked about how you were able to, after the course of X amount of years of work and kind of, I don't know, it seems like more of a little bit of a struggle, you're able to just surrender that part of yourself to just allow some new perspective in your life. And I can just so appreciate it, because I think that we all let the intellect drop for fractions of moments all the time to let that wisdom come through us. And I think that focusing there more of the time is where the magic is.
I so agree. And most of us, I think, come to it kicking and screaming. So my personal kick and scream was I looked in the mirror. You know how you can look in the mirror when you're brushing your teeth or something like that, and you kind of see things. But if you look differently, you see other things. So this was not a brushing your teeth moment. And I and I saw that my eyes and my skin, I was in my 30s, my eyes and my skin did not reflect the life that I thought they should at that moment. And I realized whatever I was doing, and no matter how smart I was about it, it wasn't taking me where I wanted to go. I could see it on my face. I could see it in my eyes.
Yeah.
So that scared me.
Yeah. And I mean, when you talk about how it looked on you physically, I immediately think about the inside of the body and what's going on the inside, kind of cellular level, in terms of that level of tension or discomfort or out of alignment, whatever it may be, how that manifests physically. And, you know, I working with people and supporting people in their physical symptoms and conditions, I'm always looking at what's going on in that feeling level inside. So it's fascinating. I mean, it seems like maybe we should just dive in. What do you think? Is there any more stage to set?
I just want to comment on what you just said. And absolutely, in my opinion, real change has to show in your face and your body. Otherwise, how could it possibly be real? We use this expression mind body as if we're combining something that isn't already combined. So Dr. Asen, in his early books in the 1960s, he wrote mind body as one word, and he said mind body without the hyphen. And that's really what you're talking about. There is no hyphen in it. It is mind body, right? And so of course it's going to show. And of course it's reflected inside and out. So I totally agree with you. Yeah. How could it not be?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so funny. I think it's only in the last maybe few generations where we've really separated things apart. And I think in attempt to further understand the mind, further understand the body, and kind of this reductionistic separate and dive deep. But I think we are totally losing the forest through the trees, for lack of a better cliche.
Absolutely. You know, I think you'll appreciate this. We believe that we're larger than our conscious minds, right? Anybody that does any meditation or spiritual practice or anything like that, even journaling, has a sense that we're larger than our conscious minds. Do you agree with me on that so far?
There's more to us than we're consciously aware. Yes.
Yeah, that's another, absolutely. And so, but then we try to use our heads, our mental abilities, our logic, our quote unquote rational mind to solve things that are not under the purview of the conscious mind, that they're larger than the conscious mind, but then we use our conscious mind to try to manipulate them. And that's like, I don't know, looking at a bird and thinking you can fly. It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah. And then that brings up another one of my favorite quotes, is that problems cannot be solved from the level of consciousness from which they're created.
Absolutely. Einstein, right?
Correct. We've got to tap into the creative potential, which is beyond intellect.
But what people do is they try to solve it with the intellect, because most of us don't know what else to do. So that's why I wanted to do this experience that we're going to do. So you get a different aspect. So let's dive in. Yeah. Okay.
Well, before we do, I'm just realizing maybe you could define Eidetics in like a textbook dictionary definition, maybe at a third grader level, for someone to really easily understand what it is that we're diving into here.
Great. I'll do my best. It's not that easy, but very, very simply put, an eidetic image is an image that is formed at either difficult or wonderful places in our life, not just growing up, but our whole life. And it has an image component. It has feelings that are connected to the image, and it has multiple layers of meaning. We'll see more when we experience it, but What I love about images is it's a little bit like Pandora's box, which at the bottom, of course, is hope. At the bottom of all those horrible things that come out of the box is hope. So our eidetic minds, which actually the ancient Greeks knew about, this work was understood by ancient Greeks. The eidetic images have a mind of their own. They may encapsulate like difficult situations or traumatic or wonderful situations that have happened to us. But let's say it's something difficult, they contain within them the seeds to regaining our original natural resources that got blocked by those happenings, those processes, that history. Does that make sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we often think we've lost some part of ourselves that we used to have, an ability to connect to happiness, an ability to feel eagerness naturally, the ability to flow, the things like that that children raised without huge trauma can do naturally. The images actually reach their hand back to that place in a person and bring forward the potentials, not as something to remember how to do, but actually reconnects the neural pathways that have been kind of crusted over by history.
Maybe you could answer this question before we dive in, and I
Sure.
don't want to spend too much time doing other things, but
Sure.
how, in your experience, is this distinguished from other sorts of kind of subconscious process work and digging in and
Mm.
tapping into things inside of ourselves?
Well, so as I mentioned, I've been working with people for 40 years and studied all over the world, lots of different processes, got certified in a lot. To my knowledge, there's nothing similar. And the reason is because of the way it goes into the mind. Most of the time, let's say there's a lot of somatic work lately that's pretty popular for people to come in through the body. Then, of course, there's a lot of rational cognitive therapy where people go in through thinking. But this work starts with a non-controlled eidetic image. So the conscious mind is out. It's not controlling it. And a smart person, anybody, but it can be especially surprising to a smart person, what we'll see is something we had no idea was there. No idea. So it's the way we go in and the attention that's paid to what Dr. Asen called the image, the soma, and the meaning, in that order. Image being eidetic image, not visualization. A visualization is controlled. You want to feel a certain way, you want to practice, you want to win the Olympics, whatever. It's very controlled. But eidetic images aren't controlled at all. So they go to a place we're not even aware of. Does that help a little?
Yeah, it does. And I think, as we know, it's beyond, some things are beyond explanation in terms of words and intellect and
Yeah.
to be experienced. So I'm
Okay.
excited to open up with you. Yeah.
All right. Good for you.
Yeah.
All right. So let me give you a couple ground foundational principles kind of so that you and your listeners can do this along with you. So number one, we're going to be doing eidetic images that have parents in them, but underline, bold, italics, but this is not about your history. It's not about memory. It may feel like it when we start to do it, but it is not trying to remember something. That's number one. Number two, I think of these images as thoroughbreds. Like, really let them have a mind of their own. Let them go. Let them do what they need to do. Let them do what they want to do. Don't try to think it through. I'll remind you about this
Yeah.
later.
I'll need a little reminder on that one, especially.
I did too.
Yeah.
And today we're going to go for, at the very least, a deeper knowing of the area that we're going to consider today, a deeper knowing for you and for your listeners about something important to you. Maybe, depending on your inclination and if we have time, we'll go through movement through that and a breakthrough. But at the very least, a deeper knowing about what's, quote unquote, holding you back in some area. Okay. All right. So for everybody, now I'm going to work with Benjamin, Dr. Benjamin here. And so you can follow along with us. You can try what I'm suggesting on your own, and later I'll show you how to be able to do that more specifically for you. So for everybody, think of something that you would really like to have a shift in, Benjamin. Something that would be meaningful to you about anything to do with being human. Something that you would be willing to share, at least to some extent, with us.
Yeah, well, the first thing that comes to mind, which was a topic of conversation just earlier this week, was, and I don't know if this is too broad, but just not comparing myself to other people.
Okay.
I tend to be a chronic comparer.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I just, never in my feeling, never measure up to other people.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah. Never felt like, growing up, never felt like a cool kid in any way. Never popular, just kind of mediocre, and never able to stand out. And I think that that's becoming more, it seems very old and stale and insignificant, but as I emerge kind of entrepreneurially and
Yes.
professionally in the world, I feel that kind of, like you were talking about, keeping me down, keeping me small.
Absolutely. So to help, because in terms of applying this in a little bit, given if we have time and so forth, can you show us a way that that's coming through in your entrepreneurial journey right now, where you've noticed it, where you're having to deal with it? Because I know people.
Where it's coming through, like, just more concrete examples.
Yeah, where it's literally affecting your entrepreneurial journey. And I'm making notes. That's why I'm looking down. Yeah. Like, think of something to do with maybe marketing or talking to a new potential client or saying what you do or promoting your podcast, or I don't know. Those are just some ideas. If you're okay with it.
Yeah. The where I feel it is in my comfort level inside of myself when I'm, it's interesting because I feel very comfortable right here, right now in this conversation. And I've been feeling more comfortable in these sort of podcast conversations with people who I don't know all over the place. But still, there's a level of discomfort, and it's just, I guess I'm not really answering your question.
No, you are. You are.
It seems to ripple out in all different ways, in all directions, in terms of the podcast and how well the podcast is doing. Is it getting enough listeners? Does it matter? Do people care about this message?
Yeah.
Am I wasting my time here? That sort of dialogue or monologue happening inside. And similarly, a lot of my colleagues, and I graduated from school just a couple of years ago, and most people got jobs at clinics and didn't kind of take the leap directly into starting their own business. And the thought, should I have gotten a job at a clinic? And I did for a little bit, but should I have had that sort of more traditional experience? It's kind of a general, not quite fully trusting what the heck I'm doing, professionally.
Yes. But just tell me if this is accurate. You're following your own path. However, you're not certain that it's the right path, but you are following your own path.
Yeah. But even when you say that, I know that there isn't another path for me. But maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know. No. But I intellectually, conceptually know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But it's that level of deep trust and confidence that expresses through everything, whether it's the podcast, whether it's client, appointments, and it's all other, sorts of projects that we're working on.
So great. Thank you. And the reason I'm saying so great is, first of all, good for you, good on you for being so willing to be vulnerable on your own podcast, right?
Yeah.
That takes a lot. And it's something that so many people struggle with. And I'm sure your listeners can relate. Mm-hmm. So let's go for it here.
Let's do it.
All
Yeah.
right. So you can do, everyone, you can do this with your eyes open or closed, but obviously not if you're driving. And I would suggest you don't do this while you're driving because you'll get more out of it if you can focus. So having in mind, you already have in mind what you want to experience a shift in. And now, from now on, I'll just talk to Benjamin. See your parents in the house that you think of as a home, the house you grew up in. Where are they and what are they doing? And this is from a time when you're still growing up. So I'm going to say it again. Don't pick which house, don't pick where they should be. So you can just wait if you need to. And I'll say it again. See your parents in the house that you think of as a home, the house you grew up in. And in this image, the image that you're seeing right now, these images were called gifts from the gods by the ancient Greeks. They're so powerful. Where are they right now? What are they doing? Where are you? What are you doing? And how old are you? Benjamin, you can take your time. When you're ready, you can just open your eyes and okay, you're ready. Yeah.
So correct me, I'm already intellectualizing, so I just want to clarify, this is not a memory, or it could be a memory, or what?
Okay, great.
What
yeah.
is,
So this is exactly what happens, right? So this is perfect. So your mind will search for meaning. Your mind will look for something that makes sense, but we're going to a different place. So if a memory comes up, we're going to go with it. But what you want to be doing is literally, to whatever extent you can, allowing yourself to see the image that shows up. Now, this image may be really vague or it may be vivid. It doesn't matter. You don't want to try to get vivid. You don't have to do anything to it. So my question is, because if you get a memory, we'll work with memory as long as you're looking. My question is, did you get a glimmer of something? Because if not, I'll go in and help you a different way. Did you start to see something?
Sure. The first thing that came was a memory, and it was, once it was, it was like immediate. And then once it was there, I felt myself, that's a memory. I should allow fresh things to come in, but I already had the memory and it was kind of locked.
Okay, then we're going to work with what is called a memory image. So memories, usually we just think of them, we regurgitate, we already know it, right? It's sort of like we know this story, but we're going to look at it. So put your eyes on the memory and allow it to have some life, and things may happen that are all memory and things may happen that aren't. You just want to let it have a mind of its own. So go ahead and look at it. And as you continue to look at it, tell us what you're seeing. Where are your parents? What are they doing?
Well, my parents are in the kitchen kind of eating area of the house that I grew up in. And they're kind of just sitting at the table, talking about serious-ish kind of things, or so it seems to me. And I'm outside playing, and I'm about 3 years old.
Okay. All right, great. Now keep looking. Mm-hmm. When the young you sees the way your parents are talking, whether you can see everything, even though you may not be able to see through walls and so forth, but you can still see them. When the young you looks at your father talking seriously-ish with your mom, what does the young you feel right now? And I suggest that you look through your young eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to go inside. I don't want to go in there.
No.
Yeah.
No. What's the feeling that you have when you look at them that you don't want to go in?
I'd prefer to stay in my own world out here, riding my bicycle, and not get into serious things.
Yes.
Not serious talk.
Yes. What do you see when you look at your dad? What do you see in his face, his body, his gestures, the way he's with your mom, the way he's sitting there, or whatever?
Disappointment.
You feel it, or he's feeling it?
He's feeling disappointment, or a little shame or disappointment, discontent.
And as you look at this through your 3-year-old eyes, do you sense what the disappointment, shame, and discontent is towards?
Yeah, it's just in the context of life and
Life.
family.
Yeah. And when you see that through your 3-year-old eyes, what do you feel?
Still just, I don't want to go around that. I don't want to believe that. I don't want to see that. I just want to focus on the world that I live in, which is me riding my bike outside.
Yes, yes. All right, you're doing great because you're really looking. Now look at your mother through your 3-year-old eyes. What do you see, first of all, when you look at her?
Passion and emotion and love and compassion.
And is she directing these feelings toward anyone or anything in this image? Or just that, is that just the way she is, period? Like, is she feeling it towards someone or something
Well,
in the image?
that's, I guess, no. She's
No,
just
okay.
kind of, that's her.
Okay. And how does a 3-year-old you feel when you see the passion, emotion, and love and the compassion coming from your mother?
Feel intimidated and a little bit scared or unsure of how to be around that.
Do you feel in the image as a young you, do you feel it's directed towards you in some way? Some of this emotion in this
No,
moment? Okay. All right. Now let's look through your mother's eyes at your father. So you're really looking through her eyes in this moment, in this image. What does she see and what does she feel?
she sees someone who's a little disconnected and she feels frustrated about that.
Okay. Now look at through father's eyes at mother. What does he see and feel when he looks at her?
He sees someone who's really trying really hard and he feels bad
About,
about not being who who she wanted him to be.
hmm. Now, as you look at all of the ways that people are being or feeling in the image, is any of the feelings here familiar to you right now in terms of this area that we're looking at about measuring up and confidence about knowing what you're doing is right for you?
I'm not sure that I followed the question.
Okay, all right. Let me just think about this and maybe ask
Yeah.
it a different way. You're still outside wanting to leave,
Mhm.
or has that changed at
Yeah,
all?
just wanting to stay outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now we're going to try a couple different things here. See that a cool wind comes down from the heavens and it's a gift from the gods. And see that the cool wind swirls around the little 3-year-old you. And the 3-year-old you feels the coolness as it swirls around you. You can feel it, whether or not you feel it in your body here, it doesn't matter, but the 3-year-old can feel it. And as the cool wind swirls around you, out of you, number one, pops you, number two, and number one disappears. First, look and see, what does number two look like? And what does number two do?
Number two looks the same,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess, he does look a little bigger, a little bit more put together, more confident in his decisions out there. And the second part of the question,
What does number two, now that you're seeing number two, what does number two do? Just keep watching the image. Now that number two is there, number one is gone.
yeah, he just sends a lot of love and compassion inside,
To the house or to himself?
into the house.
Okay, now Now what? Now you smiled just
Yeah.
before you started to answer when number 2 came out, and I was wondering, you had a really nice smile on your face. What was happening that you have that smile? What are you seeing or feeling?
Just that connection. I just really liked the image of the cool wind
Yeah,
from the gods, and that really infusing that little boy
yeah.
during confusing moments in his life. Yeah.
Yes, 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 absolutely. We'll talk about that later. So now, see, now you're saying that the 3-year-old looks bigger and has more confidence, right? And is more put together and is sending love and compassion into the house. So keep watching and see what number 2, how number 2, be inside number 2. So look through number 2's eyes, feel what it feels like to be number 2, watch and see what number 2 does and how that feels. Just let it keep going, whatever it does.
Yeah, there's nothing else coming in terms of doing or action. Um, just riding the bicycle in circles,
Mm-hmm.
but not thinking about number 2 is not thinking about what's going on inside. He's okay outside, and he trusts.
Okay. Now stay with this. So you said something that a lot of people say is like nothing's changed. So in an image, it's a little bit like it's not like a movie where that we have to keep seeing different scenarios. So when things are the same, like the way you're riding around, what you want to do is allow yourself to keep seeing and keep feeling what it's like to not to be on the bicycle this way, riding in circles after the cool wind, and having a sense of it being okay and trusting. Just don't try to feel the feeling, Benjamin. Just let yourself be inside of number 2 and experience it. This is the neural pathways shifting, reopening. So this is really important, but it doesn't have to be like a movie where things change or
Mm-hmm.
seem. Yeah. And just from time to time, tell us what you're seeing with a little, maybe a little more detail or depth, or just what you're seeing, period, and what you're feeling. See, keep your mind out.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure your mind stays out and stay with the image, because that'll be helpful.
Yeah, he's actually not smiling, but not upset. Just very cool. Very
Yes,
cool.
yes. And go ahead. Were you gonna say something else? No.
No,
Okay.
he's just wrapped up in his own world out there.
Yeah.
But at the
And
same time, at the same time very aware of what's going on in the greater world,
yes.
and knows his role and responsibility in relation to the greater world.
And what does that feel like in his little body? Your not his, it's yours.
Yeah.
Your little body. In
Calm. It feels calm and peace, yet tremendous strength and ability.
Yeah. Really nice. And can you feel that in your adult body?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how many people are going to watch the video, but I wish they could see your face.
All right. I'll be sure to watch the video and see this.
It's beautiful.
Mm.
All right. You can come back if you want.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. If you stayed with your experience, which is all that's needed.
Uh-huh.
So you want me to talk about this, or do you want to ask some questions, or what? What would be
Oh,
helpful?
yeah, I'll let you kind of
Okay.
debrief while I come back into the moment.
Okay. Okay. All right. So actually, let me take it another step. Okay.
Sure.
One more step. I meant to do this. So now pick a
Yeah.
situation where in your current life where this comfort level or lack of enough comfort level is coming up, or feeling like you don't measure up. Pick a specific situation, either that was or is coming up. You don't have to tell us what it is in detail. Just pick one and let us know when you have it.
Okay.
Okay. So does this involve someone else or just yourself?
Um,
The
it's
situation,
a talk,
a talk
a public talk. Yeah.
that you're going to give. Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. Now, so now you want to see in an image. We're going to apply what just happened here. So now see in an image that you are preparing for and then giving this public talk. And keep your 3-year-old number 2 self in the back of your mind. So you want to, and some part of your mind wants to be seeing the way that you are on the bicycle, the number 2 self, and the feelings that go with it. And if you can do this, keep about 85% of your attention on that image, the image together with the feelings. And then at the same time, see in front of you that you're giving this public talk. And watch what happens in the talk while you keep your bicycle number 2 image in mind. Tell us when you get there and take your time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, what do you see in the speaking image, the talk image, and what do you feel?
Well, the same level of calm and peace in my body. And I feel tall and straight and comfortable.
Yeah.
And just really able. Just really able and dynamic and balanced. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Hold on just a second. So, all right. So you can feel that, right? In your real body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does it feel real, or does it feel, honestly now, does it feel real, or does it feel like I'm trying to pull something out of you that doesn't belong to you?
No, it feels real.
Yeah.
Cool. That's a funny question. How could what's I don't know.
Exactly.
But I guess if someone is really not trusting.
I knew the answer, but I wanted you to hear it, and I wanted your listener to hear it. Yeah. And because, so what we're doing here, so you from, I'm only intuiting or imagining your work, but it makes sense on the physical level. If a body, if you have a cut and you keep it clean, the body already knows how to heal that cut. Mm-hmm. Right? There's no question of it. Mm-hmm. As long as you're not sick and you keep it clean. I mean, terribly sick. The mind knows how to do the exact same thing. It's just that it's been lost to us for, centuries. So what we did here was it was great because you had a memory. Now, which you called a memory. Now, normally memories are static. They don't change. This is what happened, and this is how it turned out. The thing, though, that happens with us as human beings is that we have something that happens, and it tends to bury part of us, especially if it happens a lot. But the part that gets buried, like this bigger you that was calm and wasn't all taken over by what was happening in the house, but had a really beautiful sense of self, very peaceful sense of self, and actually a sense of what's around you as well as self. That part of you was already there, but it got covered over by history. So we don't have to go fill you with something you don't already have. And I don't have to convince you that actually you're calm, confident, and expansive. Why? It's already there. All we have to do is find a way to connect to it. What we did was we used a filter. So we used 3 different eidetic images today. There are thousands, but we used 3. And the filter was when you put your bicycle image in your mind and you saw yourself doing something currently. And that allowed you to connect more to the confident, calm, peaceful, strong self that could go about doing things your way confidently. Mm-hmm. That's how we and when I work with my private clients and my mastermind clients, what we do is we work with the images to clear out that neural pathway so that the connection to that self becomes automatic as opposed to trying to force yourself to become, which of course, to my mind, doesn't really work, not the way I want it to.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, and I really love that you say that you brought the connection to the body healing itself, just like the mind heals itself. I say that all the time, and this is a great tool to connect with the self-healing potential of the mind. Um, and yeah, I've got some kind of questions
Sure.
bubbling up.
Ask
You,
away.
you know, I'm familiar with the fact that the mind, just like you said, the mind heals itself, and sometimes it's covered up in history.
Mhm.
Um, but like with or without eidetic images or any other processes, I'm familiar with experiences and times, and sometimes they are fleeting moments where that alignment comes and there is calm and peace and courage and confidence and
Yes.
that real connection with wisdom, which is also the self-healing potential of the body.
Sure.
And I'm connected with that. You know, I think being connected with it all the time is just not part of the human experience, because when we're there, it's like it's hard to move and do other things in the world. Or I guess that's my experience. You know, it's like we're all enlightened, but we're not all enlightened all the time. But we all have the enlightenment inside that's coming through moment to moment at various
Yes.
points. But
Yes.
but being fully enlightened 100% of the time, which I think a lot of humans aspire to be, is just not part of the human experience.
I think there are some very few enlightened masters who have gotten there, but
Mhm.
so few. Yeah, we. I, I agree with you. We say we want enlightenment, and I'm with you on that. And yet, I've been studying one of my mentors that's gone, but and I've been really feeling and seeing and understanding to whatever extent I can how much love was pouring out of this man, and how people who were there with him, how those who took it in, it just like they absorbed it and it went right through them, and then they went out into the world with more love that other people could feel. That's a really high level master. I'd love to be able to have pieces of that. I'd love to have that kind of effect on the world. I'm talking about with this work something less than enlightenment.
Yeah.
However, as I've done my own work, I have definitely opened more spiritually. It's been a really profound part of what's opened in me as I dropped the over rational part of myself,
Mm-hmm.
because that part of you doesn't have a whole lot of love in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, I like that you spoke to maybe, I don't know if you spoke to the limits of Eidetics, but it seems like it's not about enlightenment. It's just about navigating the human experience with more grace and awareness. And what else would you say is kind of the point
I'm
of
gonna
all of this?
Let me tell you some things that when I lead, I have a mastermind, an eidetic mastermind called Heart Plus Spirit Equals Breakthroughs Mastermind. We meet here in Santa Fe a couple times a year. We meet in teleclasses. They have private intensives, day-long intensives. We do a lot of stuff. So I'm going to tell you things that were not testimonials, but just things that people threw off when they were doing their check-in. Eager is part of my repertoire. I feel like I'm coming to life. I feel confident. The quality of commitment within me is so different. Things aren't not like the way they used to be. I don't think the same. I'm not always waiting till the last minute. My heart feels huge. I'm not denying myself. I feel like I took an anti-nervous pill. I can easily handle what comes at me. I easily switch gears. I feel like I'm making myself whole, and my life feels filled with alternatives or options that I didn't know I had. Those are just off the cuff things that they said.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. Um, One kind of thing that I was reflecting on, it came to mind today, was the Marianne Williamson quote about, you know, our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate, but is that we are powerful beyond belief, or something along that lines. And that's what kind of comes to me in this kind of work, and the idea of how we kind of set up roadblocks for ourselves subconsciously a lot of the time. Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think humans are unique in our abilities and, I guess, subconscious desires to hold ourselves back?
Hmm. I'm not sure I have a great answer. I think it has a lot to do with what we've been talking about a lot today, which is the way that the overly rational mind has become so dominant, and the logical mind has become so dominant, which represses what we have, our real potential. So for example, as I said, I'm not enlightened, and I've noticed a lot of changes in myself. So for one thing, if you used to ask me, how do you feel? I would say, well, I think, no, Wendy, really, how do you feel? Well, I think that it would be better. I just had no idea, no clue. I was doing my best. As I got to experience kicking and screaming against it. Okay, so this is a bit like a little addition, I think, or part of what you're asking. We say we want something, and then we fight like tooth and nail against it. You've seen that in yourself, right? With people or people that you work with, we say we want to do better at our business, and then people get buried in some social media stuff, right? They know, people so often know what to do, and then we don't do it. You know how to be kind to someone else, and like maybe somebody that you really care about, and yet you find yourself holding back. Does this ring a bell at all, Benjamin? Does it ring true to you that people do this all the time?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And it's
Okay.
just so weird.
Well, I think we do resist what we most want, but I think it's how much credence we give to our thinking mind, because in the eidetic world, in the images like the number 2 that you saw with your bicycle image, like that place has limitless expansion, and that's in us too.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've moved very far from ourselves, very far from ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes I support people in kind of a similar way, but I certainly couldn't call it Eidetics, but just kind of connecting with a loving feeling inside. I think everyone can do that, despite how disconnected, anxious, painful, whatever it is that we feel, we have the ability to connect with our essence. What I believe to be our essence. Our essence is wisdom, is love, is compassion, which is what Eidetics pointed me towards as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in those moments and with that connection, we have limitless, expansive, creative possibilities.
Yes.
And yeah, and I think that a lot of people in the world are focused on doing or achieving or kind of living in whatever way, whether it's with relationships or work or health or whatever it may be, but not from the core essence of who they are, but from expectations that
Yes.
are culturally, societally influenced, and just really not deep down to the core authentic. So
Yes.
this is really an authentic connection tool, as I
Yes.
feel it. Yeah.
Basically whatever works. So,
Yeah.
and here's what happened to me. So years ago, decades ago, I was at a workshop, this before I did Eidetics at all, and a very well-meaning woman was holding up a mirror to me and said, Wendy, tell yourself you love yourself. And I was thinking inside myself, oh, come on. I don't, and I'm not going to lie to myself. And I just felt I couldn't say something I didn't mean, and I knew for darn sure I didn't love myself at that time. I didn't at all. Bonnie Raitt, do you know the singer, songwriter, the musician? Anyway,
It's not
She,
ringing a bell.
she's earlier, pre Benjamin time.
Me.
Um, so she has a line that says, "You can't make your heart feel something it won't." She's referring to love, but for
Be
me,
anything. Yeah.
anything. And
Yeah.
when I really thought about that line, I thought that is so true. You could really want to love somebody. Maybe they'd be the perfect partner for you, but you can't make it happen. It just, the heart has to feel it. You just can't. And at least I can't. And so what I love about what Eidetics brings to the table is that sometimes we don't even know that capacity, like for you, for example, the capacity to really connect to that feeling of calmness, presence, expansion, that freedom from thinking. I didn't tell you not to think anymore. You went to a state you already had of not thinking about what was happening, not being captivated. Your mind wasn't captivated by what was happening over there with your parents. And in Eidetics, the differences, and this is just, this is why I do this work. The difference is for me that I'm not telling people to remember how to feel that way. The image itself takes you there again and again until that's what comes up naturally. So that when you come to a situation like an encounter with something that'll help your business, that what you're most connected to at that point is that confidence, because it's already it's bubbling up. Just for an example, that's why I am attracted to this work, because it helps my mind.
I'm curious if there's any homework or kind of tools that we can use on an ongoing basis to strengthen that connection to what's already there. Or what do you advise or suggest to people, or is it going through the process numerous times?
I have such, I feel so sad when I get this question, because
good. No.
I wish that I could give something magical that would help. And like a one-time thing or homework. But the problem is that our minds will try to defeat an eidetic image. They'll try.
Can you say more about defeating what that means?
Like some people, like you did beautifully, but just for some examples, you might say, "Oh, well, that's a memory, and I didn't feel good, and so I'm not going to feel good on my bicycle because I didn't, and because all these terrible things happened in my family afterwards, and I know that's what happened, and I know what came from that kind of encounter with my parents, and I'm, that kind of thing." Or so often we're blind. We're what I call insistently blind to the places in ourselves that need the most help, but they're really buried even from us, no matter how smart we are. And so a person will tend to repeat those situations. Or, so my father went bankrupt 3 times, and my mother was very efficient and effective, but she did it tightly. So I'd look at my mother, and unconsciously I would think, there's no way I want to succeed that way. And I'd look at my father, and his vision was very appealing. I loved his vision, but he couldn't get anything to happen. And I became more like my dad, and that was disaster for one of my businesses, absolute disaster, because that was in me. But I mean, people were dragging me and shaking me. Can't you see what you're doing? I was being just like my father, and I couldn't see it. And I wanted to see it. I was just drowning in what I was doing. So these parts of the mind are not clear to us, again, no matter how smart we are. So until you really can allow an eidetic image to have a mind of its own and to go into it, it can be hard. Some people can do it, but I don't have an easy homework. What I do with my clients is we go into the tough places, and we open up the places that are closed over and over through the images, so that the people immediately start to feel more themselves, like you did with the cool wind. See, the cool wind is one image. It's called an emanation. It's one image that allows the self, other parts of the self, to come through, like pretty much instantly for most people. You liked that a lot. It was
Yeah,
like
I mean, now even just saying cool win, I'm like, ooh.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
probably probably forever. I'll probably, whenever I hear or feel cool wind, I'll have a good feeling. It
Yeah.
seems like it's kind of programmed in that kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a wonderful eidetic tool. And it really brings out more of the self, because you were more than that little boy who just never wanted to go inside and wanted to get away from what was happening. There was a lot more to you, like calmness, centeredness, strength, presence with what's happening, but also yourself. And you could see and feel the way your body was changing in the image. You did look bigger. You looked a little older to me, but you definitely looked bigger. And just like you're a man of your own world, a young man of your own world is what I was seeing.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
well, no, it's definitely speaks to it, and I feel like I'm aligned with you in the sense that there's just, I guess what I was asking was, is there a little pill that we can take effectively? And I know that there's no such thing, and it's life is practice and opportunity, and that being said, it seems like having a neutral kind of perspective that kind of points people along is probably crucial. I do believe that we are our own healers and we do have everything inside of us. But sometimes it seems like we can come up against sticky points.
oh yeah,
At which times having a Wendy to kind of point things out, look at that, look that way, look this way, it can be really helpful. Because I am one to kind of, if it's challenging, my philosophy is if it's challenging and if it doesn't feel good, just don't do it now. Just wait until it feels right. And, don't force things essentially. But with this kind of thing, it's like you can force gently, you can push up against things gently in consciousness and make some breakthroughs.
every eidetic image, if you will watch it, no matter how horrible, and I ought to speak probably after this to what your people might have been seeing, because it'll have been different.
Oh yeah.
Every eidetic image, if you will watch it and not interfere with it, and I have seen, I don't know, it's probably close to 1 million now, but anyway, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of images. Every eidetic image, if you don't interfere with it, will take you to a more expansive place in yourself, because that is the nature of this part of the mind. So it isn't about pushing. However, when I was mentored by Dr. Asen, who created this work, and again, the ancient Greeks knew about it, but he made it into a kind of therapy, and he almost fired me from being his client, because I was so unwilling to open to what was right there, literally in front of me, but also, this is how weird I was. I could feel the good feelings coming in the image, like you did, we could see your smile, your wonderful smile and so forth. I could feel those good feelings coming in. Now most of the time I'm on the phone with him, sometimes in person. He was in New York. And I didn't want him to hear the good feeling in my voice. I didn't want to show it. I just, oh my God, here I am paying him to help me feel better. And I don't want him to know. I mean, that's crazy.
Well, yeah, what was that about? I mean, was it just like you were doubting the good feeling, or you knew it was the truth, you just didn't want it, you were had a stubbornness? I can kind of relate.
Stubborn, absolutely stubborn. And also, I'm sure it has to do something with my own personal history about like that too tight dress. Like now I'm supposed to be somebody else's idea of me, or, oh, so now you win, or something like that. It was some screwed up version of that. But I bring it up, not just about me, but of course, but this is what we all do. we do fight against what we want. And this is why the mind that is doing that must, in my opinion, must be worked with. And it's not about pushing that mind, although when you're stubborn like me, he had to get pretty darn creative. But it made me a better therapist, a better eidetic therapist, right? Because nobody can be more resistant than I was.
What's coming to me is that the fact that, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When we're ready to see things, experience things, feel things, we will. And at no point sooner, through Eidetics, through anything really, it's only in our own divine timing that is revealed for each of us.
So true.
Yeah, on the physical level with healing, I think a lot of time, and it comes back to this kind of Buddhist philosophy of expectations or something. And the more we cling on to expectations of how things should be, how things should feel, what things should look like, the more we're let down inside.
Yeah.
So the more I find myself just releasing more and more, just trusting all is well.
Beautiful. Good for you.
Well, that's the intention. I don't know practically if I'm as effective as I could be, but
every step we take in an honest connection with that feeling is gold. Mm-hmm. It's when people say, oh yeah, it's all good. Sometimes I want to wring their necks because they don't mean it.
Yeah.
They don't mean it.
Exactly, and that's why I am not a huge fan of things like positive psychology and affirmations and just thinking good thoughts, because it's all about the feeling in the end. It's all about what's, and we can't, when we feel our thinking, but we can't control our thinking. We can't.
Okay.
Or can we? Can we control our thinking? I mean, you helped me control my thinking for those period of moments, but in the big picture, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that, because that's a really important part of what happened. Because in your image, I've said this in a different way already, but in your image, you automatically got to a place where what was happening over there was not controlling you anymore. You were, what was the word you used? Well, you said you were trusting.
It was in my own world.
Yes, I'm not thinking about what's going on inside the house. You were just with yourself. Whereas before, you didn't exactly say it, but and so correct me if this is wrong, but what was happening there, you were trying to wall it off. You wanted to be away from it, but it was taking some energy.
Yeah, correct.
Right. So this is just a part of the way the mind works. So everybody can relate to this, what you're saying. So Eidetics isn't about stopping you from thinking, but naturally what happens is you start to believe you're thinking less, which is really a big deal, and also have other places inside of you which feel way more delicious, way more sensual, and way more compelling, so that you're not driven by the thinking. There's actually a process that I use with people. It's too much to do here, but to cool down that overheated thinking that just keeps perseverating over and over and over. OCD people have it, but all of us have it when something bad happens and we can't let go, right? And that part of the mind, Eidetics deals with beautifully. But you can't make yourself not think. That's part of being human.
Right. Yeah. But having, we all have the experience of a peaceful mind from time to time.
Absolutely.
Like
I agree.
If someone with chronic anxiety or depression, if you put them in the right environment with the right people and have a party and have friends and family and delicious food, they're probably not going to be anxious or depressed. They're probably going to be, maybe they'll slip in and out of it, but the environment controls our experience, our feelings, but it's not the environment that is responsible for our good feelings. The good feelings only come from within.
Sometimes how can I put this easily? So let's say I'm working on something with a private client, and eidetically, the problem that they have, what to do about XYZ, how to grow their business, how to take their creativity out into the world, how to stop going down the rabbit hole of electronics, how to eat more healthy, whatever it is, how to actually let themselves love the person that they're married to, all those things. We can't make ourselves do those things. Hang on, I lost my thought. Can you? I was going somewhere that I really wanted to
Well,
talk to you about.
you're speaking to the fact that, you know, a lot of people are focused on behavioral change,
Got it.
but it, yeah,
Okay,
doesn't
so
come
thank you.
from just you should do this, you should do this. We know that. Yeah.
Yes, but and when we work identically with something and we get that ease like you experienced, you still have to go do the talk. You still have the partner that you're running away from. You still have the rabbit hole of electronics, but what you do with it is automatically different. That's the difference. The things
Yeah.
don't go away. You know, the internet still goes down. You know,
Yeah.
this is part of life.
Yeah.
Let me speak a little. Oh, go ahead, because I want to speak to.
No,
Yeah.
please, you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think so. Let me talk to all of you who may have done your own experience, and can I give people a place to get a little bit more of that?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. So a couple things. If you did the house image, that was the first image Benjamin I did. You may have seen an image as opposed to a memory. So if you saw an image, then it may have been maybe one or both parents were negative, terribly negative maybe, or one or both parents were positive, or some mixture. So first know that that's normal. When I first started, all my images were negative, horribly negative. I felt they just made me feel bad to see what my parents were doing. That is, if there were negative feelings in the images for yourselves, then what I did with Benjamin could have been very interesting for you, where we did the emanation. You do that. That's one of the thousands of images that you do when something's stuck or feeling bad.
That's the cool wind.
That's the cool wind. Yes. Thank you for that. Yeah. And if it's positive, I wouldn't have done the cool wind, like if Benjamin had a positive. So if you had a positive, what we would have done is go into it more, not try to make you feel it more, but see it more and let the feelings come from that place, because you can't make a heart feel something it won't. Mm-hmm. Then the filter is also something that you can do, but like we did with Benjamin. So I hope you followed along with that. But everybody's image is different. And it's different as you move through your stuff too. Like if I work with a client and then we do the same image, you know, a month or 2 months or whatever afterwards, if they've been doing the work, the image will have changed, because it's not about the parents. It's about the way we are inside. It's not about what happened in our history. It's the way that we have incorporated what's happened in history. So if you want an opportunity, I mentioned a couple times about spiritual pieces. I really work with a lot of people who are interested in their spiritual life and who find that there's a gap between the spiritual life and like their spiritual practice and the rest of life. So yeah, I feel loving, blah, 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 in my spiritual practice, and then I go scream at somebody I love. So how do you bridge the gap? So I thought a lot about this because Eidetics really helps with it. And I wrote a manifesto, which you can get for free as my gift at www.myspiritualmanifesto.com. And in that manifesto, there are stories about how to work with the mind. This one woman who is going straight downhill towards being overworking and tense and pressurized like her mother was, but she couldn't stop. There's ways of understanding what's stopping you through your mind. There's a way to contact me. There's a way to have more of this experience that Benjamin and I just did, but deeper, and give yourself more time without having to hear another image at the same time. So it's a work from my heart, myspiritualmanifesto.com.
It's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with me and the world.
Yeah, thank you.
And Are there, I'm curious, are there many other Eidetics practitioners in the world?
There are
Yeah.
handfuls here and there all over the world, but not many.
Not many. Yeah,
Not
I
many.
feel like out of, I studied spiritual psychology, and I feel like I've kind of heard of a lot of things in terms of the psychological, spiritual exploration, and Eidetics is new to me.
Yes.
So that's why I was so excited to kind of tap into something new. And, I love how it points us directly within, directly where the answers are. And I think it's just so important to know and trust, as you have conveyed, that this doesn't come from, you didn't put anything in me. You didn't give me anything that I didn't already had. You just focused my awareness inwardly in a way that allowed me to have an authentic connection.
And it was what I like to call just a whisper's width away.
Yeah, I like to remind myself that that sort of connection is always really just a moment away.
Yeah.
Even in a panic attack, even in
Yeah.
the biggest crisis, we
Yeah.
are so close
Yeah.
to our authentic wisdom and to that core essence of who we are.
I think the people who work with you are very lucky.
Likewise,
Thank
likewise. Well, I didn't know you were in. I think maybe I did see that you were in Santa Fe. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful place, and I've spent a little bit of time there, but hope to spend more. And maybe I'll call you up when I'm in your neck of the woods
I
next.
hope you do. I
Yeah.
mean it.
And any other kind of words of wisdom or last thoughts to leave with the listeners today? In terms of, people are equipped and know how to take next steps to maybe contact you or get more experience, but in terms of everyone's unique spiritual journey.
I would say that if you did the image with Benjamin and you experience, especially at the part with the cool wind, and you experience even just a tiny, tiny taste of another part of yourself, that you are feeling something, experience something, being with something that is so much bigger than what you might be feeling now. And that place, if you follow it, will take you to a more expansive, more connected place in yourself. And it's already there.
It's already there. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Wendy. And it was wonderful to connect. Thanks for guiding this experience for me. It was touching and impactful for me. And I know and trust that a lot of people got a lot out of this as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, peace and love. And until next time.